The sun was bleeding out over the canyons when Ethan Hale spotted the trail of blood. He had been riding since dawn, searching for stray cattle lost after the last storm. The desert stretched endlessly around him, raw, red, and silent except for the wind that hissed through the rocks. But that crimson trail caught his eye, winding like a secret across the sand. He dismounted, crouched low, and found a broken arrow stained dark. Then, just beyond a ridge of sandstone, he saw her. A girl, barely more than 20, lying half-hidden under the shadow of a rock, her body trembling with shallow breaths. Her skin was bronzed by the sun, her hair long and black as midnight, tangled with dust and sweat. Ethan froze. Her torn buckskin dress told him everything. Apache. For a moment, he stood in silence, torn between fear and instinct. The Apaches had been in uneasy truce with settlers for months, and finding one wounded could mean walking into death. But something in her face, something pure, defiant even in pain, made him move closer. "Hey," he whispered, kneeling beside her. "You're hurt bad." Her eyes flickered open, dark as obsidian, sharp with warning. "Go away," she rasped, her voice raw. "They'll come back." Ethan glanced around, hand resting on his revolver. "Who'll come back?" he asked. The girl tried to rise, but fell again. "Soldiers," she gasped. "They killed my horse." Without another thought, Ethan lifted her gently into his arms. She was light, fragile as a broken wing, and burning with fever. He carried her to his horse, whispering, "You'll be safe, I promise." She didn't answer, just stared at him with disbelief, as though men like him didn't make promises to women like her. He rode hard through the canyon until the light began to fade, searching for a hidden spot to rest. He found a small cave near the river, laid her down, and built a fire. Only then did he see the arrow wound in her side. He cleaned it, tore a strip from his shirt, and bound it tight. She bit her lip to keep from crying out, her pride stronger than her pain. As the flames flickered, he studied her face. She was no ordinary Apache girl. Her necklace was made of silver and turquoise, her bracelets carved with sacred symbols of the eagle and sun. Whoever she wasn't common. She was someone important, someone being hunted. When he asked her name, she hesitated before whispering, "Taya." The name floated in the night air like a secret prayer. Ethan nodded slowly. "Rest, Taya, you're safe here." But even as he said it, he sensed something watching them from the shadows beyond the firelight, something that didn't want her to live till morning. By dawn, Taya's fever broke, but she was restless, murmuring words in Apache that Ethan couldn't understand. When she finally woke, her eyes were filled with suspicion. "Why did you help me?" she demanded. Ethan poured water into a tin cup and handed it to her. "Because I couldn't ride past someone bleeding to death," he said. "Doesn't matter what tribe you're from." Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but close. "You're a foolish man, Cowboy." He shrugged. "Been called worse." She tried to sit up, wincing, and when the blanket slipped, Ethan saw more markings on her shoulder, tattoos of her people, symbols of rank. "You're not just anyone," he said quietly. She turned her head away, silent. "Who are you hiding from, Taya?" he asked. After a long pause, she whispered, "From my own fate." Her voice trembled. "My father is Chief Keone. The soldiers came to take me hostage, to force peace on my people. I ran. They killed my guards. If they find me again, I'll die, or worse." Ethan felt his gut tighten. He'd heard the name Keone, fierce leader of the Apache bands who refused to bow to the army. Saving his daughter meant Ethan had stepped straight into the heart of a war. "We'll get you home," he said firmly. She looked at him, shocked. "You would risk your life for an Apache?" He smiled faintly. "Guess I'm not too smart after all." They left the canyon by mid-morning, riding through the heat and dust, keeping low. Taya guided him through hidden trails, though her strength faded with every mile. She spoke of her people, their sacred mountains, their songs of the wind and stars. Ethan listened, feeling a strange ache in his chest. He'd grown up believing the Apaches were wild and cruel, but beside him rode a woman whose courage and wisdom shamed the cruelty of men who called themselves civilized. That night, they camped beneath a sky ablaze with stars. Taya sang softly, a haunting melody that carried across the plains. "It's a song of return," she said, "for those who have lost their way." Ethan stared into the fire. "What if you can't go back?" She looked at him with deep, unreadable eyes. "Then I must make peace with the land. It remembers everything." But peace was far away. Before dawn, they heard horses in the distance, the rhythm of soldiers closing in. Ethan's hand went to his gun. They've tracked us. Taya's face hardened. Then we run no more. The chase began before sunrise. Bullets tore through the air as Ethan and Taya galloped across the open plain, sand spraying under the hooves. The soldiers shouted behind them, but the canyon walls closed in, giving the fugitives cover. Ethan fired once, twice, forcing their pursuers to slow. There's a pass ahead, Taya shouted. If we reach the sacred ridge, they won't follow. The climb was brutal. The horse stumbled, Taya's wound reopened, but she refused to stop. Her spirit burned stronger than pain. When they reached the ridge, the first light of dawn broke across the horizon. Below them, the soldiers hesitated. The land before them shimmered with strange light, as if the earth itself guarded its own children. Taya dismounted, her eyes glistening. "This is where I belong," she said. "You must go, Ethan." He shook his head. "Not leaving you here." She smiled sadly. "You already saved me. My people will find me now. Go before they find you." Ethan hesitated, every instinct screaming to stay. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw strength, royal, eternal. She touched his hand gently. "You've done what no white man dared. The land will remember your name." And with that, she stepped back into the mist rising from the sacred ridge, her form fading between the rocks as if claimed by the mountains themselves. Ethan rode away slowly, his heart heavy yet peaceful. Behind him, the wind carried the echo of her song, the song of return, soft and haunting, promising that some bonds are written not in blood, but in courage. Weeks later, when he passed the same canyon again, he found a single turquoise stone lying in the sand. He picked it up, knowing exactly whose memory it carried. From that day on, he never told anyone about the girl he found in the canyon. But every time the wind whispered through the plains, he swore he could still hear her voice, strong, proud, and free. The fire crackled weakly in the cave as the first blush of dawn crept across the canyon walls, painting them gold and crimson. Ethan had dozed off sitting upright, his hat tilted low, revolver in hand. But the faint rustle of movement stirred him awake. Taya was sitting up now, her dark eyes open and alert, though her face was pale and strained. She looked at him not with gratitude, but with guarded suspicion, the kind of gaze born from generations who'd learned to trust no one. "Why did you help me, cowboy?" she asked softly, her voice like the whisper of dry wind through desert grass. Ethan rubbed his eyes and gave a small shrug. "Didn't reckon I needed a reason. You were hurt. That's reason enough." She studied him for a long while before turning away. "Most of your kind would have left me to die," she said bitterly. Ethan didn't deny it. "Maybe so," he murmured. "But I ain't most men." He poured water into a tin cup and held it out to her. For a moment, she hesitated, then accepted it, sipping slowly. Her hands trembled, though she tried to hide it. "You shouldn't be here," she warned. "The soldiers will come back for me. And if they find you with me, they'll kill you too." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Let 'em try." The firelight flickered across his weathered face, and for the first time, she seemed to see him differently, not as an enemy, but as someone who carried his own ghosts. Her gaze fell to the wound on her side, now bound in strips of his torn shirt. "You fight for the bluecoats?" she asked. He shook his head. "No ma'am, I fight for my land, my herd, and the few things that make life worth fighting for." She gave a faint, pained laugh. "You sound like my father." That caught his attention. "Your father?" Her eyes clouded. "He's a leader among my people. A chief. Keone." Ethan's breath caught. He'd heard that name whispered in every saloon from Tucson to Fort Bowie. Keone, the man who never bent the knee, the warrior whose name alone sent soldiers reaching for their rifles. "So you're his daughter," Ethan said quietly, realization dawning. "That means you're worth a lot to those soldiers." She met his eyes, unflinching. "They think if they hold me, my father will bow to their treaty. They don't understand him. He'd burn the earth before he'd beg." Ethan looked into the fire, feeling a weight settle over him. "Then we best make sure they never find you." Taya frowned. "You would risk your life for an Apache woman? A stranger?" Ethan smiled faintly, tilting his hat back. "Ma'am, I've made worse bets in my time. Besides," he said, meeting her gaze, "you don't seem like someone who deserves dying in the dirt." Her expression softened. Barely, but enough for him to notice. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If the soldiers find me alive, they'll use me. If my people find me with you, they'll kill you." Ethan sighed. "Then it seems we're both in a heap of trouble." They rode out by mid-morning, leaving behind the cave and the faint trail of blood. The desert stretched before them, vast, endless, shimmering under the white sun. Taya guided him toward hidden paths between the red cliffs, her every movement graceful despite the pain. Ethan rode beside her, feeling an unspoken bond forming between them, something neither of them had asked for but couldn't escape. She spoke of her home, the sacred mountains to the north, where the air smelled of pine and rain, where her people gathered each full moon to dance and pray to the spirits of wind and fire. Ethan listened in silence, realizing he'd spent his life chasing cattle and coins, never understanding how much soul the land truly carried. As the sun dipped low again, they stopped near a dry riverbed. Ethan built a small fire, and Taya hummed a melody that wrapped around the flames like smoke. "It's a song for travelers," she said softly. "It tells the spirits to watch over those who walk between worlds." Her voice was haunting, ancient, filled with sorrow. Ethan couldn't help but stare. "That's a mighty fine song," he said quietly. "Does it work?" She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "Only if your heart still remembers where it came from." They shared a long silence, the kind that says more than words ever could. For the first time, Ethan realized he wasn't just helping her, he was being changed by her. There was something fierce and sacred about her, something that made the world around her feel alive again, but their fragile calm shattered when the distant thunder of hooves echoed through the canyon. Taya's head snapped up. "They've found us," she whispered. Ethan's hand went to his gun belt, his eyes hardening. "Then we make our stand." In that instant, the bond between them became something unbreakable, not born of fear or duty, but of shared defiance against a world determined to tear them apart.